Reba, hi.
Hi, Sammy.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Good Vibes FC. I am Sam Mewis, coming to you, believe it or not, from yet another women's game world headquarters, this time in Vermont.
I am Becky Sauerbrunn, and I'm coming from Portland, Oregon, and it is ass early in the morning. Sammy, if ever there's proof that I love you, it is that I was willing to do this podcast before I went to training.
Well, we just love our listeners so much, Reba. I feel like we just wanted to give them the best podcast that we could. We wanted to wait until after the SheBelieves Cup game that the U.S. won the final. Reba, what did you think of the game?
Woo! Oh, very exciting game. Very exciting.
I know. It was like pretty crazy. The penalties, we're going to get to all this. I wanted to check in, Reba, really quickly. Two things are on my list this morning. Women's basketball and the solar eclipse. Where do you want to start?
Oh, let's start with basketball.
Yeah. So how much did you watch? Were you like following along? Caitlin Clark, Iowa, South Carolina?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I absolutely watched the championship match. I would say that I tuned in like while I was watching every single minute of the match. Do they even call it matches in basketball?
I don't think
of
so.
The game. Yeah. God, Becky. From probably the Final Four.
Oh, nice. Amazing. Well, what'd you think? Like, do you love watching basketball?
I love basketball. I played basketball all through high school. I tried to play at UVA, and Steve Swanson, my soccer coach, was like, no. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right.
Oh my God, I didn't know you tried to play in college. So you were like really good.
Oh, no, I was thinking about playing in college. I don't know if I ever would have made it, but I was willing to try out.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, I wanted to report, because I'm a journalist now, 18.7 million people tuned in to watch South Carolina beat Iowa in the national championship game. Women's sports, like the talk of the town. I feel like we're just like breaking record after record. I say we because we're
a part of it.
I'm a part of it.
Hell, of course we're a part of it.
I know. I feel like women's basketball, like just the rate, like everybody seemed like they were talking about it. And I thought it was just such like an exciting tournament. Like Caitlin Clark, it seems like she's a household name now.
Yeah, it's just so beautiful. It makes me really, really happy. I will say that I was rooting for South Carolina in the final, though.
How come?
I really like Dawn Staley. I think
it's
amazing to have an undefeated season. And I think we as Americans, we love kind of the underdog story. I totally get that. But there's something about maintaining excellence that I think is just really fascinating and is so difficult to do. And so I just really appreciated that team got to do like the perfect season.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that take on that.
Well, who were you rooting for?
I was like, Caitlin Clark is like nasty. Like, obviously she's so fun to watch. I think now that you say this, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that is really cool that South Carolina won. I do love Dawn Staley. I think the run up, like the rivalries that came earlier against LSU, like the path that Iowa took, I think I kind of wanted Caitlin Clark to win because of just her impact. Like, I think it would have put even more of a stamp on just her impact. I think she was one of the huge draws to the viewership and to how it became such a household event. And I think that players like that who like change the game, kind of like you want them to have that championship that's like a stamp on their impact. So I do feel like I was rooting for Iowa, but I also now trust you so much that I'm like, Becky's really smart and she knows what she's talking about.
Well, the great thing though with Caitlin Clark losing this national championship is that she's going to get drafted into the WNBA. So now it's just like she gets to carry all that viewership, all that support now to the W, which is so exciting. So now you're bringing all these new viewers to the game.
Totally. I mean, the WNBA is just another example of how I think women's sports is in such a period of growth. We're going to just get carried away talking about women's basketball this whole podcast. I do want to ask you about the solar eclipse. I made such a scene that I was in the path of totality. I got to see literally the whole thing, and I was like hemming and hawing about it all week, being like, who cares? Like, why is everybody flipping out about this? And then I like saw it in person, and Becky, there was 4 minutes where it was dark out and it was like beautiful. Like you could just see the moon, but like it had a ring of light around it. And it was like, honestly, one of the coolest things I've ever like experienced.
Do you feel like you're forever changed? You're now going to be chasing these eclipses around the world?
I might be. I saw an article about somebody who like has sought out all these eclipses and like gone to the path of totality like 13 times. And I was like, I get it, buddy. I hear ya.
I was out of the path of totality. We were at like 25% here in Portland. And per usual, it was a little cloudy. So we were like, we can't even locate the sun, like, let alone see an eclipse.
Yeah.
Also, we were doing a passing pattern. And so by the end, we were like, did we miss it? And the coaching staff were like, yeah, you missed it. You missed it.
Everybody's like, yeah. Yeah, sorry. We don't care about the eclipse here in Portland.
Sad. I was sad because I love that kind of stuff.
It was honestly like way cooler than I thought. But how is Portland otherwise? Have your cats forgiven you?
Yeah, I think we're getting there, definitely. I have given them so many gourmet treats that they better start liking me again. And other than that, Portland's been great. It's a little bit newer for me to be here during international duty. And so it was really fun to be around the group, and there were so many players gone. So it's a very like diminished group.
Yeah.
But like the quality of the training sessions and the intensity and all that, like it was just so good. And I just really appreciate the people that are here. And even though we're like having to adapt to training because of the lesser numbers, like people are just taking it in stride and just like, this is a great opportunity for us to get better. Like, let's go.
Yeah, I do feel like international breaks are a great opportunity for players who might get lost in the mix or might be behind a starter. They get this opportunity to train with less numbers and have more time with the coach. I'm definitely going to ask you more about this because I know you have a big game this weekend and I want to know how your week was at home. But we have a lot to talk about before we get to the NWSL this weekend. So a little preview today on Good Vibes. We're going to talk about 2024 SheBelieves Cup, the wild ride that it was. We're also going to talk about the African Olympic qualifiers and how Zambia and Nigeria secured their spots in the Olympics. And we'll get into a little bit how they stack up in their groups. And then we're going to talk about Euro qualifiers. Those began, and we're going to look very briefly at how UEFA does it. It's very complicated, so we're kind of just going to skate the surface, and maybe we'll spend a whole other podcast series breaking that one down because God knows I need a lesson. The NWSL is back this weekend, and plus, we got the goofy question that I have been asking you guys to send in. I can't wait for you to hear it. Before we get to all of that, Becky, it's time for our little joke. We are the self-anointed thunder and lightning of women's soccer because we're an unstoppable pairing in the universe of natural phenomenon.
Wow. What natural phenomenon? I like it.
Phenomenon.
The plural of phenomenon is phenomena. Got it. Okay.
Do you think that you're thunder or lightning?
Oh man. I think I'd like to be thunder if you're okay with lightning.
I'll give it
No,
to
we
you.
can switch.
No. Anything for you, Becky.
Do you remember we would call Lori the Lightning Lindsay?
I don't think I ever played with Lori Lindsay.
You never played with Lori Lindsay?
Maybe we overlapped one camp or something, but like, I don't remember that. I was probably panicking.
It was kind of a joke because she wasn't lightning fast. And I don't know if it was Pino. I don't know if it was Pino or Pia Sundaga.
It's like so rude.
Oh, she loved it. She loved it. So we would just call her Lightning sometimes. Lori knew exactly who she was. That's one of the best things about her.
Oh, that is a really funny story. Okay, let's get into SheBelieves, Becky. The SheBelieves Cup, thank God, it is safely in American hands once again, not without a few close calls, penalty kicks, and as always, an absolutely unstoppable Alyssa Naeher. The tournament consisted of just a semifinal and a final round, beginning with the U.S. versus Japan on Saturday afternoon. There was a record-breaking 49,504 fans, the most ever for a friendly, that showed out in Atlanta, Georgia. The U.S. came back to win that one 2-1 after going down in the 30th second of the match to Japan. Goals from Wonder Kid, should we call her that? Jaden Shaw. And Lindsey Horan penalty sealed the deal. So that meant that the U.S. moved into the final, which would be played against the winner of Canada versus Brazil. Canada ended up winning that game, and lo and behold, a penalty shootout. Brings us to Tuesday night's final, another familiar one, USA versus Canada. USA as natural phenomenon. This is going to be a fun day. It's going to happen
the entire podcast, isn't it?
Yep. I don't know like when it's plural and when it's plural it's phenomena, but when it's singular it's phenomenon. So USA is a phenomenon.
Yeah, I like that. I think, I'm just thinking of something that is like so completely inevitable. Like A rainy day in Portland. Like, that's inevitable.
Yeah, like just it's raining all day.
There you go.
Because the U.S. is just coming. It's just always raining. Raining goals, raining saves. I don't know. Versus Canada. Canada is like an earthquake. They just, all that pressure is just building up, and then they just score goals right at the end of the game. They just have a little shake up.
Do they ever, against us, they really, really like those last second goals. Really annoying.
Pretty wild. Okay, USA versus Canada. SheBelieves Cup final 2024. The last match between these two teams was that Slosh Fest in San Diego, Becky. We have some nicknames here for that game. Puddle Party in Paradise. Chaotic Canada Crapshoot in California.
Any more?
I personally don't have any more. These ones were written down for me. We could come up with more at any time.
Okay, I'll think on it.
That was the W Gold Cup semifinal that the U.S. ended up winning on PKs after goals from Jaden Shaw and Sophia Smith. It was a whirlwind, but it was like hard to like understand anything tactically from either team because nobody could really do their game plan.
No tactics existed.
Yeah, no tactics existed. It was just like a puddle party. So we have this rematch, this time played in perfect weather, Columbus, Ohio, Paradise. This time the field is dry, it's a final, and it's like a much better case study of where both of these teams are at. But the result was like almost identical. So let's start with the team sheet. Both matches saw similar squads, but there were a few standouts that we should highlight. Jaden Shaw has been going back and forth between the 10 and like the winger. Becky, do you have any like strong thoughts about her positionally?
I think the way that the U.S. played yesterday with Crystal Dunn getting high, it allows Jaden to invert, which basically she's playing the 10 again. So even if she's listed as the 11 on the team sheet, she really was playing the 10 last night.
Because she comes so inside.
She comes inside and allows Crystal to get even higher onto their Canada's back line.
Do you like that?
Oh, I think that's great. I think Jaden as a playmaker, getting lots of touches on the ball, as she did on, I think it was Soph's second goal where she gets to play Trinity and then Trinity plays Soph.
Yeah.
And then also you're getting Crystal's offensive brilliance and allowing her to get higher up the field. So I think it just works out really well with the player profiles.
Yeah, I agree. I think something I am curious about is I feel like for a while, especially during Gold Cup, it was Foxy getting higher, Emily Fox, and maybe Emily Fox was like coming more as to play in a 6 instead of that like kind of winger that we're seeing Crystal do. But I am just curious about the decisions of what side to bring that forward more internal on and how that will affect those outside backs and which personnel pairings are the best.
You're exactly right on that. Like with the Gold Cup, just as I was on the team then, so I can tell you a little bit.
We have an insider.
The tactical flexibility, I think that would be one of the themes of that Gold Cup. And you're right, it did change between whether it's Foxy or whoever was playing left back getting high, whether it was Foxy inverting into the 6 and kind of doing a double pivot. It was definitely something that we were trying to do to kind of change things up depending on who we were playing against and also the profile of the players that we have.
Yeah. Okay, well, that brings me to Mal Swanson. She's back with a vengeance. I thought Mal was really, really great in these two games. She played 78 minutes in the first game, and then she was a second half sub in the final against Canada. But in both games, she was creating havoc down the wing and through the center with like attacking-minded play. She was really dangerous around goal. I feel like this is almost the same Mal that we had last year. Like, it feels to me like she hasn't missed a beat at all.
She looks so good, and I think from both these games, I would say she was probably one of the best players on the pitch both times that she played. She looks great. She looks so silky smooth. Like, she just glides with that ball, and it just wreaks havoc.
I know. I'm so thrilled for her. I think that, like, just seeing her, like, dribbling again and, like, doing these creative little things, I'm just so psyched for Mal. I think after being out for so long, and I know it was a traumatic injury, to come back and to see her playing with joy again, like, just brings me joy. But Becky, I also specifically wanted to ask you about Naomi Girma goes off in the first game with an injury, an apparent thigh injury. Reportedly, she's day-to-day and doesn't sound super serious. But Naomi gets replaced by Abby Dahlkemper. And I want you to explain a little bit why substitutions as a center back are so rare and how hard of a ask this was to have Abby step in and then play the rest of the first game and the whole second game, and how great of a job she did doing that.
Yeah, I think there are a couple factors that go into that. I think as center backs, a lot of our job is reacting to the people that we're playing against. And so basically, we're being dictated to how much we need to run. And in general, we just run less than other positions on the field. So, like, the load that we're acquiring is not as much. And so when somebody does need to be subbed, you're usually giving that to somebody that has to do like a lot of max sprinting, a lot of dynamic movement. So you're looking at like more of the attacking players or even like the outside back. Um,
Hmm.
and I would also say that you don't see center back sub as much because so much of what we do is based on chemistry. And so you can throw kind of an attacking player in and allow them to do what they do best, even if it's more individualistic as opposed to like linking up with other people. As center backs, if you were to be an individual, like you're just going to give up goals. And so much of how the back line does is based off that center back pairing because one or both of them, like they're reading off each other on how to run the line, what spaces we need to protect, how we need to change people in front of us. So like we're playing chess back there a little bit.
Mm.
So we're using our brains sometimes a little bit more than our bodies. So it's a little bit easier to leave us in.
Yeah, so I feel like physically it's a position that needs to be subbed less. And then also like in the run of a game, like you're saying, subbing in somebody who hasn't had all those reps and isn't kind of on the same wavelength as everybody else at that moment. It's like a chemistry thing.
Yeah, it can be really disjointing because people run the line differently.
Right. So how do you think Abby did stepping in? Like, I thought she did great to step in, and what we just explained is a really difficult thing to do.
Oh, brilliant. And like, it's very rare that like 18 minutes in, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm going to be playing against Japan now.
I know.
And I thought Abs did really, really well. And then she carried that performance over into the Canada match as well. I thought her and Tierna were both very excellent during the She Believes.
I totally agree. Okay, so the game begins. In the 40th minute, let's just call this a healthy mistake. A ball from Canada was played forward. It drew Alyssa Naeher out from the net, and the clearance got like muffled. It was just like something just happened over there. And then Deanne Rose plays the ball forward to Adriana Leon, and the net is empty. So Adriana Leon slots it in. It's 1-0 Canada, just like the Japan game, except this time it was a little bit later. Canada strikes first. Now, Becky, we're down a goal. We're playing from behind for the second game in a row. Is this like just part of the way the game is going now? We're playing opponents that are so good. Like, we're going to have to learn how to come back from behind, which we're doing. But is this just part of this new era?
Yeah, I think gone is the time where we're just going to be beating teams 4-5, 14-0. Like, it's just like the game has caught up, and that is such a great thing. And so, yeah, if we're not finishing our chances on the other end and a team gets a fast break like they did, like we're going to give up some goals sometimes. And that's just a reminder that like any bounce of the ball, like sometimes it just doesn't go your way. Like I thought we had the run of the play in the first half. I thought we were getting some good chances. I thought we kept Canada pretty quiet. And, you know, they get one like decent chance.
Yeah.
It was really just kind of like a scramble. And all of a sudden we're going into halftime 1-0 down.
Yeah. I know. I actually said about the Japan game, the game before where we went down really early, I feel like when a game stays 0-0 for a long time, teams almost like take less risk and it becomes a really like cagey, conservative affair. And I almost felt like because we got scored on early, we kind of were like, okay, well, now we have to score. We have to score twice. So let's just do it. And the team was playing fluid and creatively. I think Sophia Smith even said after the game that that was the most fun games that she's been a part of. And I do feel like it's because we went down early. I feel like this is exactly what happened in this Canada game. We come back out on the pitch after halftime. We're down a goal. And then we're immediately on the front foot. Mallory Swanson comes on for Sam Coffey. And in the 50th minute, Tierna Davidson plays a ball to Jaden Shaw, taps it over to Sophia Smith at the top of the box. She gets an inch of space, sets herself up. She buries it in the bottom left corner. Now it's 1-1 and it's game on. Shortly thereafter, in the 64th minute, Trinity Rodman replaces Alex Morgan. Jaden Shaw shifts more officially to the 10, and then Sophia Smith shifts to the 9. 4 minutes later, works again. Jaden Shaw gets the ball in the middle of the field. She leads Trinity in on a ball in. Trinity makes a run with it. She passes through to Sophia, who then is in on goal. She slots it home again, and now it's 2-1 to the U.S. Unfortunately, the game couldn't end there. If you watched the rain game from the Gold Cup, you saw Canada just keep clawing their way back, and they somehow did it again in this one. In the 84th minute, Adriana Leon, the Aston Villa forward, Canada's goal scorer, sets up a clever give and go in the right wing, gets it back in the box, and draws a foul from Crystal Dunn. Thought it was kind of soft, but what did you think?
Kind of soft, extremely soft. I mean, you see Crystal's face? She was like, no, you
I
can't
think
call
she
that.
was literally going, how?
Yeah.
It was so annoying, but no VIR in this tournament. Clever of Adriana Leon. She does draw it. The ref's right there. They get the call. It happens. Adriana Leon steps up, takes her own penalty. She converts, and now it's 2-2. No extra time. That did go straight into penalty kicks. So we do this all over again. This penalty kick dance with Canada. It's a tale as old as freaking time. I'm going to run through the PKs really quick. We started with a miss. Bummer. On Canada's third PK, here she comes, Old Faithful, American hero, the legend Alyssa Naeher. She starts her run of saves. How insane is it that we can, expect Alyssa to make 3 penalty kick saves in any given shootout? I feel like the normal expectation is 1.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the whole time I was like, oh, we got this. Right when it went to PKs, I was like, okay, we can probably turn this off.
Right? I know. And there were a few scary moments. There were a few moments that we could have lost it. There were a few moments we could have won it. So as soon as Alyssa makes her save, she runs immediately to the spot. She takes her own PK. She buries it. This is like that slingshot game where you're behind and then you wrench the person and then they're behind you and you use your momentum to get in front of them. That's Alyssa. She's just the slingshot.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I know. So doesn't crack a smile. She walks back to the net and then she saves the next one again. Is there anything cooler in soccer that you can do besides save, score, save?
Not that I can think of.
Is a bicycle kick cooler?
I mean, I don't think so. I'm gonna give it to Alyssa. She's
it's only if you did 3 bicycle kicks in a row.
And one was a game-saving bicycle kick.
Yeah, one was
the
defensive.
Defensive line. Yeah. Then I would maybe give it to you.
Okay. So that's where the shifted momentum happens. The U.S. takes the lead. It got nervy again. Went into sudden death. A third Alyssa save opened the door for Emily Fox from America to win it for America. So it was incredible. Let's look at the big picture, though, Becky. 2 narrow wins, but wins, and they're both against good teams. So certainly a level of competition commensurate with who we will face in the Olympics. Overall, the attack is feeling really fluid, a ton of options, and it does seem like we're still experimenting with who goes where. And Lynn Williams and Rose Lavelle, we're not even in this camp. We also didn't see Kat Macario against Canada. So let's quickly talk about our U.S. attack. Do we almost have too many options?
It is an embarrassment of riches, isn't it? It is. I just imagine the Canadian back line being oh, we're subbing on Mal and Trinity, and just absurd laughter. It's ridiculous, the depth that we have in the attacking positions. And I think you're right. I think when it comes to who the starting lineup is going to be, I don't think there's going to be a set 3 that will start every single Olympic game. I think they're going to rotate, and I think it'll be tactics, but it is just a beautiful thing to see. And a nightmare to have to defend.
I know. I want to get more into this and be who are the front runners and who are the front runners positionally and what are the best pairings? But I honestly don't know. I think that you're exactly right to say that it's probably a tactical decision based on the opponent, based on I do think form and fitness, in a few months, there's still a lot of games between now and then, and players could get on a hot streak. Players could get on a cold streak. So I do think that this decision can't have been made yet.
I agree. I totally agree. And that is definitely something when Emma takes over, she will, it'll be up to her and that big brain of hers to figure out.
I feel like this is going to keep her up at night. She's just going to have the front 3 dancing through her head with 10 people.
We're not going to play any defenders. It's just going to be all attackers on the field.
She's just I got to play them all. I got to play them all. Mal, you're playing center back.
Best of luck.
Yeah, okay. That was our She Believes recap. I'm so glad that we could wait to do this episode until after the tournament because it was so fun to talk about it as a whole. It brings us to our Olipop gut check of the week, Becky. Cheers. We only have 4 more warm-up-esque games before the Olympics. Is this U.S. team ready to win the Olympics? Becky Sauerbrunn.
100%. 100% this team can win the Olympics. I think all it takes is for the players to be in good form, to stay healthy. You get a little momentum, and absolutely this team can win the Olympics.
I totally agree. And here are my 2 reasons why. I feel like Gold Cup was hard. We figured it out. We lost a game. We come back. These young players who are in on this team right now, they learned how to win at Gold Cup. Like they were like, yeah, the tournament's not going to go perfectly. I think that's the most valuable lesson you can learn as a young player is that tournaments aren't perfect. And they just learned that at Gold Cup and they learned it again at SheBelieves. Who gets scored on in the first 30 seconds of their tournament and then wins? The U.S. does. So I'm freaking thinking we're going to win the whole thing.
Also, I texted Alyssa after the game and I just go, you legend. And I don't throw that word around a lot. And all she did was hearted it. That's all she did. And I was like, someone who hearts that message is going to win the Olympics.
Somebody who's just like, yeah, thanks.
I know. Yeah. I hear this all the time. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. Thanks, Becky. You're one of 100 people who text me that. I'm Alyssa Naeher. That was our Olipop gut check of the week. You heard it here first. The U.S. is going to win the Olympics. And that is our good vibes breakdown of SheBelieves Cup. If you want more, we went live after both games. I went live with Raj after the Japan game, and then Lynn Williams went live with Raj after the Canada game. Those recaps are still available as podcasts and YouTube videos. Are you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Are you subscribed to our podcast feed? I hope so. If you need a little extra something this week, go back and give those a listen. If you just need to revel in our SheBelieves Cup victory, they're there for you. Let's talk about CAF, the Confederation of African Football. Their Olympic qualifying tournament wrapped up on Tuesday with the second leg of their final matches. Nigeria squared off versus South Africa, while Zambia took on Morocco. All 4 of these teams have strong histories and players that we all know and love, but there could only be 2 to go through to the Olympics. First team that goes through is Zambia. Morocco played Zambia. Morocco actually won 2-1 in the first leg, setting up an uphill battle for Zambia, but Zambia was up for the challenge. In the second leg, Zambia comes back to win it through standout player and new Orlando Pride striker Barbara Banda, who scored twice and sends Zambia through to the Olympics. They are going to join Group B with the US, Germany, and Australia. Pretty formidable group to be going into. And they're actually going to be the US's first Olympic match on July 25th. Becky, Zambia needs a natural phenomenon. And then I also am wondering how you see them settling into Group B.
Well, I am going to answer the second part first so that I can think a little bit more about our natural phenomenon. I think that this team, I don't remember if you remember this, Sammy, but they played Germany in a just like a friendly right before the 2023 World Cup. Yeah, and they beat Germany. And I remember watching the highlights and being like, oh my goodness, who is this team? So I think Germany's probably like, oh no, like it's Zambia. And for me, I'm like, oh goodness, it's Zambia because I think they have surprised a lot of teams. And like you said, they've got some really good players. Obviously, Barbara Bandit, like doing what needs to be done in order for them to qualify. So like this adds another excellent team into an already crazy group for us.
I know. Zambia also has Rachel Kundananji, who along with Barbara Banda is a new NWSL player. Zambia played in the World Cup in 2023 and they played in the 2020 Olympics. So they're a team that can score goals. They scored 7 goals in the group stages of the 2020 Olympics. And they're super dangerous on the counterattack with their speed. I haven't seen them play as much as I've seen a lot of other teams play. Like, for example, these games, I didn't have access to stream them anywhere. If I had to give them a natural phenomenon, I want to say it's like wildfire. They really are so quick and so fast, and you just don't know what to expect. And it's just they're spreading everywhere, and it's just fast out there.
All right. I was almost thinking like completely the opposite, where it's like a small snowball that starts gaining momentum and momentum as they go down the mountain. So we are on very different sides of the spectrum with this one.
You know, We kind of are, but when I think about a snowball rolling down a hill, I'm like, look, it's gaining speed. It's getting bigger. It's
Oh,
getting down there and it's spreading quickly.
yeah, I see it.
We're kind of on the same page. We're just approaching it with different perspectives, Reba.
And that's why we work. That's why we're thunder and lightning.
You beat me to it. So Zambia will round out our group. Honestly, it's a tough group. US, Germany, Australia, Zambia. The other team that qualified was Nigeria. Nigeria played South Africa, and they wound up with just a 1-0 win on aggregate. So I think they tied one game, their second game 0-0. They had won their first game 1-0. They now are going to slot into Group C with, hear this, Spain, Japan, and Brazil, and Nigeria. This is a tough one. Again, Nigeria, natural phenomenon.
Oh man, I think because Nigeria has been historically like so strong and they've been in almost every single major tournament, we need something that just happens all the time.
Erosion.
Yeah. Yeah. That it is.
You're like, okay, Sam, that was a weird scientific word to use here. But like, I just feel like Nigeria, and we're going to get a little bit to this, but they're wearing everybody down. They're like, yeah, we're going to tie some games, but we're going to get through. And then we're going to take England to penalty kicks at the World Cup. And we're working against our federation. We're going to wear everybody down. Nigeria, erosion. You guys heard me.
Oh, Sammy, brilliant.
Yeah, I just bumped my desk. It's almost like I thought about this all day. With my encyclopedia of natural phenomenon.
No.
Becky, what did Nigeria bring to the Olympics? Like, what are you excited to see from them?
I think what we already talked about is that they have history. Like, they know how to be in these tournaments. I think they're also playing for more than just the game. I think they're really like fighting for the next generation of Nigerian players. And like you said, like they are learning how to win and to make it really tough for these other teams.
Totally. Even this 2-leg qualifying process against South Africa, like 1-0 and 0-0, and they go through, and like that's a huge victory for them. Nigeria are definitely a team to be watching at the Olympics. I'm actually really excited to see how they do in such a difficult group, but a team with a lot of momentum. I wanted to get a little bit more into their kind of situation with their federation. So this has been going on for a while, but there's an article in The Athletic from 2023, from last fall. It speaks about Nigeria on the condition of anonymity. There had been some like blacklisting of players who were speaking out. And so some players spoke to The Athletic, but anonymously. And this player, they started the article with this, said, "They don't treat us as if we are here to play for our country. They treat us as if we are slaves." So obviously, crazy thing to read at the beginning of an article. I encourage everybody to go read it. It's from last fall in The Athletic by Jacinta Fernandez Brau. We can tweet out a link to it when this episode airs. This article goes on to detail the culture of blacklisting that players who speak out against the federation have experienced. The federation has been largely unsupportive. There have been really big systemic issues with wages, field quality, training quality, scheduling, transportation. In a culture where blacklisting exists, that growth gets prevented. So speaking out is so much easier said than done. And Becky, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about this dynamic. Like, our experience with the US, I don't think many of us ever really worried that we wouldn't get called into camp during our lawsuit against our federation. This needs more research from me, but I think we were protected by labor laws in the US. So I want to ask you what you imagine it might feel like to have this constant concern of being blacklisted up against this need that you have to advocate for your team and the players that you play with.
I think it's fucking terrible what they have to go through. And I think about the safety that we had because we were a union and because of the labor laws, that we couldn't be penalized or anything because of the way that we spoke out. But it's so scary that if you were to speak out about wanting your wages from 2021, or that the field we're about to play on is unsafe, and then having your dream potentially taken away and not ever getting called back in again, and having these players have to make these decisions about what they're willing to risk, and what they're risking, like, sometimes is their dream.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, is just like so sad. And so, like, we keep making so many strides in some areas and then just so many steps back. And there's still such a way to go. And it makes me very angry that these players are having to go through this.
They're in such an impossible situation. And I think my next question is like, how can we or other, like, how can a governing body, how can FIFA and FIFPro continue to support them and protect them when maybe their culture or their labor laws or it just seems like they're like lacking some of these protections, and I don't really know where to go from here.
Yeah, I think it's a delicate situation, and I think you're right that with FIFPro, who basically is the union for all the players under FIFA, like they need to keep pushing FIFA to make sure that these federations are taking care of their teams and the players on these teams. And so
Yeah.
really it's making sure that the pressure is getting put on the right people, and potentially like these organizations like FIFA, like there need to be repercussions if you are not following your own mission statement, which is basically to like promote the growth of the game, and for FIFPro to protect the players that play the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I encourage everybody to go and read this article in The Athletic specifically about Nigeria, but I also wanted to mention another story about African football en masse. Africa's regional tournament, WAFCON, is supposed to be this year. It is seeming like this might not even happen. So basically, WAFCON is the Women's African Cup of Nations. It's been a biannual international tournament through Africa that has been around since 1998. So kind of like Africa's Euro or CONCACAF's Gold Cup. It's their regional tournament. The last one was held in 2022. It was hosted by Morocco, who narrowly lost to South Africa 2-1 in the final. 2024's tournament was also set to be hosted by Morocco. Qualifying took place all throughout last year, but there are no dates for this tournament on the calendar, which, as you can imagine, the calendar is packed with the Olympics and everybody's club schedule. So speaking to The Guardian anonymously, one of the African FA presidents said this: "When the WAFCON has no date in the match calendar, I do not see how a tournament is possible. The international match calendar is planned way in advance. You cannot fix a tournament into the year just like that. Our players feature for clubs around the world. They won't agree to release players for a tournament that has not been planned for. It is unacceptable that CAF did not deal with this issue for nearly 2 years." So, Becky, with African women's football ascending as much as it is right now, I'm kind of going back to like, whose responsibility is this to support the WAFCON organizers, make sure these things don't fall through the cracks? Like, why would something like this happen when it's such a great opportunity to showcase these players? And beyond WAFCON as an organizing body, like, who should be stepping in here to make sure that this tournament got scheduled in advance?
I think this still goes to show that the women's game is often an afterthought, which is tragic. And so to not have this put into the international calendar, which really gets thought out, which should be thought out years in advance, is tragic. I mean, having a tournament like this is so amazing for that host country, and it also like helps the infrastructure of learning how to put on these events. Also, you're denying these players a quality tournament, which in and of itself is like, that just really sucks. Like, you're playing games that mean something. And I think this really falls to CAF, but it also really falls on FIFA, who ultimately is responsible for these match calendars. And so if they're not seeing something, like they did all these qualifications and then you don't even put in the final tournament, like how does that happen? So I think this one definitely falls on FIFA for not making sure that the international calendar was completed.
I know. I think even about what I said earlier in this episode about how Gold Cup and SheBelieves were such great practice for our US players to win a tournament and to learn that tournaments aren't perfect. Imagine Zambia and Nigeria, who are now going into the Olympics, if they had another one of these tournaments under their belt as a team where they had to learn what it's like in a tournament and go through the process of that and try to win, how much better that would set them up to compete at an Olympics or at a World Cup. And losing it is not only disappointing, like, for that squad and the experience that they don't get, but it's like a loss. I think we're seeing in women's football and women's sports all over the world, we're breaking records and selling out stadiums and doing all this amazing stuff, and people are making money off of this. And to ignore it and to continue to treat it as an afterthought, it's like your loss.
Yeah, very much so. Well said.
Okay, well, we're obviously very excited for both Zambia and Nigeria. They will be at the Olympics. We hope that we get to see this WAFCON tournament as well. Maybe they'll squeeze it in. And we are 100% offering our support with everyone on every team out there fighting for fair treatment. So we are going to briefly update you on the Euro 2025 qualifiers, which it's a marathon, not a sprint. It began this past weekend, but it has a long road ahead. This is Jess Fishlock on this qualifying process.
You know what? Why don't you take Wales's place in Europe and we will go to CONCACAF and we will have a 2-week mini tournament to qualify, and you can have an 18th month long haul fight of qualification.
Wow.
That was Wales midfielder and Seattle Reigns star on Friendlies from a few weeks ago. You can go back and listen to that wonderful interview, get some context on what she's talking about here. But basically, she's saying that Euro qualifying is really rough. Becky, what did you make of what Jess said?
I think she's spot on. I really think that we need to go to the more European style of qualifying, because I think, like, imagine us having to do a home and away, and we're playing Mexico in Columbus, and then we get to go down and play Mexico in Azteca. Like, let's get to Panama. Let's go to Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago. Like,
yeah,
let's play these really tough matches, not on our home turf. Because let's be honest, most of these qualification tournaments take place in the U.S. Like, how many have we hosted over the last 15 years?
Yeah.
I've been to 1 in Canada and maybe 2 in Mexico. Like, most of the time they're in Texas and Florida.
Yeah. That's such a good point. And also, again, to my point earlier, like, imagine bringing these games to these places and saying, host this tournament, have these games, sell tickets. Like, it would bring money, it would bring eyeballs, it would bring attention to some of these smaller federations that historically haven't competed in CONCACAF qualifying. Hilarious from Jess. When she said that, I was like, no, thank you. Qualifying in Europe is so freaking hard. So right now, these European teams are trying to qualify for the 2025 Euro. These qualifiers have only just begun. We need to get into the details another time, but broad strokes, what you need to know, this is all baked into UEFA Nations League. There are 3 leagues in the initial stage, League A, League B, and League C, and they're ranked by UEFA. League A are top ranked, League C are bottom ranked, League B are in the middle. I know, it makes so much sense. So it will culminate in an automatic qualification for the top League A teams and playoffs for the rest of this fall. Again, I know this is like not a real explanation. It would take a whole podcast, and we'll try to do that another time. But we saw the first set of matches this weekend, and there were some really key moments that we wanted to highlight, especially with England. England played twice. They are in their own group of death in the Euro qualifiers. England, France, Sweden, and Ireland. LOL.
Goodness.
Only 2 of these teams will move on to automatic Euro qualification in each group. The bottom 2 will be forced to play in a knockout playoff with qualifiers from the other leagues, Leagues B and C. So you want to get in the top 2 in your group in League A. Game 1 was England versus Sweden. The teams drew 1-1. There was a goal from Arsenal forward Alessia Russo, assisted from Chelsea forward Lauren James for England. I also wanted to note that Grace Clinton, who's a young Tottenham Hotspur player, she's on loan from Manchester United. She started in the midfield for England. It's in only her 3rd cap. So this is an exciting new young midfielder starting for England in big games. So we'll have to keep an eye on the name Grace Clinton. England's up 1-0, but then Fridolina Rolfo, the Barcelona striker from Sweden, she got the point back for Sweden with a header, and it finished 1-1. In England's second game, they beat Ireland 2-0. Big news, Leah Williamson, Arsenal center back, Lionesses captain. She started for the first time since she tore her ACL 12 months ago. So that was amazing to see her back out there. Notably, there was no Mary Earps in goal. Hannah Hampton instead got the start for England in net. And then there were goals from Lauren James and a PK from Alex Greenwood for England to beat Ireland 2-0. Becky, we also saw a crazy Megan Campbell long throw-in. It was like literally 40 yards. I don't know if you've seen it, but it reminded me of Jess McDonald's long throw-in and how many frickin' times I won NWSL games off of that thing.
I think you won a championship off that thing.
I'm dancing.
She's an Irish player?
Megan Campbell's an Irish player, yeah, and she did have an incredibly long throw-in.
They have had a long throw-in for a very long time, and I don't know if it's the same player, but I literally saw them beat Germany because of 2 long throw-ins. So I kind of like wonder if it's the same player.
Honestly, like, I know that football purists are like, this is bullshit. Like, I hate a long throw. It's not part of the game. And I'm like, well, only because I do have a championship off of it. I'm like, it is so a part of the game. And like, I'm so pro. Like, just wait till you have one on your team. And then you're like, this is epic.
The best thing ever.
This is so football. What is England's natural phenomenon?
Ooh, England.
We can't say rain because we already said it.
We can't say rain. I want it to be something where they're like, maybe it's a tornado, but they
Like
haven't
it's building?
quite. It's building. They haven't quite gotten to like max velocity.
It's a tropical storm.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Tropical storm.
I like that because I think like they still need that major. I know they've won the Euros, but like
Yeah.
Olympics, World Cup, like when is that going to happen for them?
Yeah. I hear you on that. They got off to a good start for this Euro qualifiers process. They do have a really tough group. There were honestly so many games on, Becky. Like, we couldn't possibly cover them all. I do just want to note that Germany, Spain, and France, who are all in Ligue A, are all at the top of their group with 6 points. And also, Jess Fishlock's Wales, they are in League B, but they're on top of their group with 6 points after the first 2 games. Our last piece of international football. This upcoming weekend, it's FA Cup semi-final weekend in England for the 4 teams that are remaining in the FA Cup. So Sunday morning, we have Tottenham versus Leicester, followed by Man United versus Chelsea. And Emma Hayes' treble chances hang in the balance. She could still win FA Cup, the league, and Champions League if things go well for her.
That's something to fight for sure. Imagine just getting to say that. Like, I'm just fighting for the treble.
I'm just busy for the next 6 weeks, just fighting for the treble. But regular WSL league play will resume next week with match day 19 of 22. It's really coming down to the wire here as Chelsea and Man City race for the WSL title. Look out for our weekly game graphic. There are games that you will not want to miss. Time to bring it home. Literally, coming up this weekend, we have the return of the NWSL. Starting on Friday night, we have Houston versus the Spirit and Utah versus Orlando. Then Saturday, Becky, North Carolina versus Portland.
Woo.
What do you think your team needs to focus on to get some points on the road?
I really just think it comes down to doing the small things well. And so like making your tackles, marking up in the box, connecting your passes, trusting the structure. So just like do the little things, but do them right.
Yeah, I know. You mentioned this briefly at the top, but do you feel like in this international break, the group that's been left behind in Portland that you guys have been working together, you've had these really, it sounds like, great practices. Do you feel like vibes are good going into the weekend?
Oh, I think the vibes are great. Been loving the vibes, good vibes all around. And a lot of what, you see what I did there?
It was just a podcast plug.
We've been working a lot on like the cleanliness and efficiency of touches, balls, body positioning, how you run into space, how you like open space for other people. So like the nuances of the game that sometimes you don't get to work on as much, like we've been working on. So it's really great.
One time, Steve Swanson, who coaches at UVA, I know he was your coach there and he's come in with the national team a lot. He was my U20 coach. He described like your yearly training as golf. And he was like, you can't just play 18 holes every day. Like some days you have to do putting. And I always thought of that as like, yeah, you can't just play games in 11v11 and have that be your only training. Like some days you have to do left-footed chips and it's going to be really humbling and really embarrassing, but it's like working on your putt, you know?
Totally. He's a genius.
I know. He is. He's a very smart guy. Steve Swanson, shout out. Back to the NWSL. We also have Louisville versus San Diego, and then second place Chicago takes on Angel City, who are sitting at the bottom of the table on only 1 point. So can Chicago keep it up? Keep racking up those points. On Sunday, it's Bay against Seattle after Gotham's home opener versus first place Kansas City. Eli Manning, who's part owner of Gotham, Becky, he tweeted out a video today taunting Patrick Mahomes, who is part owner of the Kansas City Current, that Eli Manning's Gotham FC have a championship ring while the KC Current do not. But Kansas City is undefeated so far under Vlatko, so we've got a little football situation going on here.
That probably pissed Vlatko off, which is like a scary thought too.
Okay, let's go to the inbox. I asked you guys came through. I asked you all for quirky questions this week, and boy, did you deliver. You all understood the assignment. We have such a great question from Thorns fan, Christopher K. Becky, if you could have a domesticated version of a zoo aquarium animal as a pet, what would it be and why? Also, side note, the animal is friendly. The animal is willing to be your pet, but it's normal size animal, normal size other features, and assume that you have the space and resources to care for it.
I mean, obviously, okay, snow leopard. And because I love cats, obviously, but they're like super playful. I like to be cold. So if I have to get like a fake snow machine or just like really just put the AC down super, super low, I actually don't have AC in my house. But if I did have AC, I could just make a great environment for the snow leopard. And I think Zola would be great. I'm hoping it wouldn't eat my other cats, but that's what I'm going for.
Oh my gosh. I like barely was listening to you because I was like racking through aquarium animals in my brain.
And what'd you come up with?
And I'm like panicked because I like have always like I loved Planet of the Apes so much. The like new one that I'm like, yeah, obviously I want an ape like that will just live in my house and like hang out and like we'll do fun stuff and we'll go to the forest and the ape can like swing on all the trees and we'll be buds.
Yeah.
But then I thought aquarium and I was like, I don't know, like maybe I want a freaking whale.
How? Okay. I mean, that's a great answer. Yeah. Totally.
Ape or whale? Okay. Christopher K. Nailed it.
Great question.
You guys,
yeah.
I know. We honestly got so many good ones. I wish we had time to just like do them all. I did want to tell you, Becky, that Christopher K., animal enthusiast, signed his email with the Go Thorns.
Oh, bless you.
Bless you, Christopher
I mean,
K.
clearly it's the Thorns coming out with a good question.
Fair enough. If you guys have more quirky questions, you know where to find me. Email us at womensgamemib@meninblazers.com. I know it's a long email. womensgamemib@meninblazers.com. Okay, this is it. Can you believe that this is it? The end of the episode. But before we go, Becky, we have to leave our listeners with a good vibe. What good vibe do you have for them this week?
So this week, I read from a Kindle a lot because we do travel. And so sometimes I just download a bunch of samples of books that I'm potentially interested in reading. And so sometimes you get a sample where like the first, whatever, you get 20 pages of it. You're like, this book is going to be amazing. And so that is the good vibe that I'm sending out into the world, is that you find a little snippet of something and you download it and it turns out to be just a life-changing novel.
Oh my God, that is such a good vibe. Like, did this just specifically happen and can you share the book?
No, it happens all the time. That's
It's
the great thing about it.
Oh, I mean, incredible. Okay, well, we wish that for everybody. My good vibe this week, I didn't really get to share it last week because I was having like a construction situation happening and my audio was all over the place. My good vibe this week is when you come home and your dog is so happy to see you and it just makes you feel like you're just a decent person and they just love you and they lick you and they jump up on you and you just get to love them.
My cats usually just look at me and then walk to their food bowl.
Well, dogs and cats are different, Reba, and so are whales and apes.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, we're so sad to leave you, but that is it for this week's episode of Good Vibes FC. Are you subscribed to our podcast feed yet? If not, please subscribe right now, you little Benedict Cumberbatch. It is available wherever you listen to podcasts, and it's on YouTube, and we're on Instagram at Women's Game MIB. Next week, we will resume our usual schedule. Don't fret. Good Vibes will come out on Tuesday. That will be with Lynn Williams. And then a Friendlies interview with Canadian Jessie Fleming will come out on Thursday. Also next week, we have a very special episode coming out with Wrexham Women's Rosie Hughes. Thanks to our friends at Stoke Cold Brew, Raj was able to sit down with Rosie in Wrexham and talk to her about what it's like to score so many goals for Wrexham. She also has a second job at the town prison, and her self-confidence in this interview, you guys, it's like so inspiring and we should all be taking notes. I think that's why she scores so many goals. So give us some of that. Rosie Hughes, that episode will drop with Raj and Rosie on the Women's Game podcast feed on Monday. Good Vibes Tuesday, Friendlies Thursday. Thank you guys so much. All right, that's it. Goodbye.
I'm Becky Sauerbrunn.
And I'm Sam Mewis, and this is Good Vibes FC. the podcast that's like a tornado because it's fast and epic and then it's gone. See ya.